I've been wanting to visit the Noguchi Garden in Costa Mesa, California for a long time. I've known about it for years, but honestly, completely forgot about it until my friend Cece recently mentioned it to me and said, Steve, if you've never been, you have to go. And she was absolutely right. I've loved the work of Isamu Noguchi for as long as I can remember. Probably one of the most influential sculptors on my own practice as a sculptor, there along with Henry Moore and Barbara Hepworth. I think I'm drawn to this period of sculpture, mid-century abstract sculpture, that used organic flowing shapes that referenced the body and other natural references. This sculptural language always just made so much sense to me. I love how this work creates a dialogue between your own body as you walk around it in this spatial experience. I have this fantastic book about Isamu Noguchi's work, and it covers all the different aspects, like his busts, which were the early pieces. Look, this is a Koro, so clearly he was a Hellenist like me. I think there's such a playfulness in a lot of his work. I like to think of these as two birds talking to each other. I think one of the last sculptures I made was this one right next to me. It's the only piece I made from wood, carved wood. In fact, I was working on this piece when I first met Brennan. This is over 11 years ago. I had a little setup on my balcony and would carve away at this big chunk of ash wood. In retrospect, I know that ash probably wasn't the best wood to start out with because it's one of the hardest woods. So it took forever to make even the slightest dent in this sculpture. Maybe this is why this is the last sculpture I made. I kind of lost my patience. Like I said, it took forever. And whenever Brennan would come over, he'd see the progress in the sculpture, however slow that progress was. But what I love about this wood is because it's so hard, I could really sand it down and come up with these very fluid, smooth shapes. Brennan named it the Mermaid while I worked on it. I'm not sure how he came up with that, but it just kind of stuck. Doesn't really officially have a name, so it's the Mermaid. And I definitely had Noguchi, Henry Moore, Barbara Hepworth in mind while I was making it, maybe with a good dose of ARP as well. One of the things I love about the work of Isamu Noguchi is that it's more than just art. It's a way of living your life. He designed furniture as well, and lights. He called these Accari sculptures, and I have a few in the house. In fact, I like the way that this Accari light speaks to the table underneath it. With two sleeping pugs next to it. I like that I have Noguchi's sense of form and light around in my own house. It can be the backdrop to whatever I'm doing. I find that incredibly special. I find perfume can do this too. It can just be a backdrop to your life. It's something that can just make your life better as you go about your day-to-day business. Just a little piece of art that you wear. In fact, I often think of smells as shapes in the air. It's interesting. When I had that conversation with Luca Turin, we were talking about Baccarat Rouge 540 from Maison Francisque Jean. And he talked about how that perfume had a shape in the air, and I absolutely agree. I suppose all perfumes do, but particularly that one. And it's so pronounced because that shape stays in the air, even after the person wearing the scent has left. You can almost see its outline perfectly. I like thinking about that. In fact, aromatic chemicals have a shape. These are molecules that go into your head, and your brain reads these shapes. In a sense, they're microscopic sculptures. There are two fragrances I wanted to put on to visit the Noguchi garden. One of them was my newest acquisition. I just bought this. It's Carine from Carine Roitfeld. Of course, you know Carine Roitfeld. She's a fashion icon. She was head of Paris Vogue and has such an eye and such a sense of style. So when her line of perfumes came out, of course, I was dying to smell them. And unsurprisingly, I love them. One of the reasons I needed to get this bottle was because of its shape. This is incredible. It reminds me of a red blood cell. It's really perfect. In fact, in this collection, there's one in a purple bottle. I'd love to see one in blood red as well. And the smell of it is exactly what I want in a perfume. It's a very classical chypre. It has notes of gardenia. I smell jasmine particularly. And this beautiful woodsy patchouli in the base. It makes this perfect cloud. Maybe some notes of leather as well. If not, I think of a leather jacket whenever I wear this fragrance. There's just something so modern about the smell and about the shape. It feels so good in the hand too. That's a bottle. But lately, I haven't been wearing Carine on its own. I've also been layering it with this classic, Paloma Picasso. Another fantastic chypre in an outstanding bottle, which to me references modern sculpture. Now, obviously, Paloma Picasso is the daughter of Pablo Picasso. Everyone thinks of Picasso's paintings, which are, of course, incredible, but I love his sculptures too. I like that relationship to this perfume, and the smell of it, of course, that incredible oak moss and patchouli with florals. It's a little bit darker than Carine. Carine has these little dapples of light at the top. This one doesn't so much. It's a little bit more serene. It's a little bit more somber, I'd even say. And what I do is I spray them next to each other so they can mingle in the air above my arm. Just a really beautiful touch of smokiness too in the scent. It's incredible. What a beautiful pairing. Okay, so let's head down to the Noguchi garden. I haven't been to Orange County in many years, definitely over 10 years. I think the last time I went was when I still lived in Long Beach. And I've certainly never been to this park before. It was made in 1979. Noguchi was commissioned by the real estate developer Segerstrom. Anyone in Orange County probably knows this name really well. There are a lot of plazas and buildings that bear his name. And again, like what I was saying before, I think Noguchi is such a special artist because he made it so that you could live in his art. Can you imagine working at the South Coast Plaza or just visiting and having this incredible park to just sit in and walk through? You know, I have to be completely honest. The experience was and was not what I was hoping it would be. I saw pictures of it and I just imagined Brennan and me in this stark space, just wandering through it as though we're part of the art. But it's a public space. It's being used by people, and that's the whole point. But I didn't want to see these people. Obviously, there was going to be a wedding that day because all these chairs were set up and some flowers. I mean, what an incredible place to get married. And I'm sure the intention of this park was to use it. I don't know if Isamu thought for a wedding, but why not? What a great place to get married, in fact. But the thing that really kind of annoyed me were these three young women, maybe college aged. I just figured they were sorority girls and they maybe wanted to shoot some pictures for social media, maybe. But they occupied this one part of the park, kind of the most iconic part with the pyramid and the fountain going, for so long. I thought they were never going to leave. And the woman taking the picture of her friend took the same picture again and again. She had her friend kind of pose in this way so that she was straddling the fountain. And one foot was perfectly arched like she was a dancer. And then she was pointing to the sky. It's a good pose. And the sculptor in me thought, good job, looks great. But they must have taken this picture at least 100 times. I'm like, you got the shot, like move on. So we waited, and then we even went closer to the girls, hoping to just intimidate them so that they would finally leave. And they did, but they clearly were not intimidated by us. It's a really interesting space. I thought it was going to be larger, more sprawling, and like I said, empty of people. But it was fantastic to witness. I went up to the roof of the parking garage so I could look down at it in the plan. And that's where it seemed the most Noguchi to me. It seemed like a drawing, a three-dimensional drawing. And the line work and shapes were especially playful when viewed this way. I'm glad people were using it. And here I am, criticizing these girls using the park so they can do their social media, just so that I could get in and use the park to do my social media. I guess we're all doing it. Now, no trip to Costa Mesa can be done without a visit to their very famous mall. Maybe one of the most luxurious malls in the country. Every big designer seems to be there. And as soon as we got there, we witnessed an a cappella choir singing a medley of Katy Perry songs with songs from Grease, the musical. People were so into it. And that kind of made me into it too. The Bloomingdale's at South Coast Plaza had this mobile in the escalator well that looks to me like Alexander Calder. I don't know if it's an actual Calder, but nonetheless, it's a beautiful piece. Because this is such a fancy mall, I think all of the stores that are in there take extra measures to make sure that their brand really comes through. And the window displays were absolutely fantastic, like works of art. Look at these Lily of the Valleys in the Dior windows. And of course, I love going into the Celine boutique because it reminds me of the Barcelona pavilion from the architect Mies van der Rohe. Basically, these planes of solid marble just do all the talking, along with glass. It's a really interesting conversation between transparency and opacity, and just perfect classical geometric volumes. And of course, I had to try on a jacket while there. I did make a really wonderful scent discovery at the Costa Mesa Mall, and it was at the Bottega Veneta boutique. I had heard that they came out with some new perfumes last year, and so I was really interested in checking them out. And the display for the perfumes was absolutely beautiful. Apparently, these bottles are handmade in Murano, which is, of course, so close to Venice, where this brand is based. Everything has a Venetian theme. The sales associate was telling us that the caps were wooden, and they referenced the gondolas in Venice. The shape is so beautiful, and it brings me back to Noguchi, or to Henry Moore, to Arp, or to Barbara Hepworth, and the blotter is absolutely fantastic. My favorite perfume in this collection, at least on first sniff, was this one. It's called Come With Me. And it's a really interesting take on iris. And along with the iris, you get interesting vegetal notes like carrot and artichoke. In fact, I did pick up on the carrot. I smelled it even before I read the list of notes in the scent. Really interesting and beautiful. And while carrot can be spicy and earthy, it just hovers high up like a cloud. Really pretty. The perfumer who did it was Alexander Calder, and I will remember that, of course, forever, because Carine in French means pug. And I could have suspected that a pug designed this perfume. Brendan and I went into Abercrombie because I wanted to get a t-shirt. In fact, I'm wearing it right now. And I also had to get this hat because I kept pulling the t-shirt above my head, so my hair got all messed up and it looked really embarrassingly weird. So we went into H&M and I picked up this hat. But while in the dressing room area of Abercrombie, I was putting on this t-shirt. I wasn't in one of the rooms. I just wanted the big mirror, and I had the t-shirt on. And some guy asked the woman in charge of the dressing rooms, "Is there a perfume in here? It smells really incredible." And she's like, "No, but we do have perfumes that are in the front of the store." And he said, "You don't have something right here? Like something that was sprayed just now?" And in my mind, I was thinking, it's me. It's the Bottega Veneta scent, I'm sure. But I didn't say anything. And she said, "Well, I can bring you some of the cards of the perfume in a minute." And so she's going to do that. And he said to all the people waiting in line, like, "Do you smell that? It smells so good." So I finally had to say something. And I said, "I just sprayed on a lot of cologne. It could be me. It could have not been me too, but I just egotistically thought maybe it was me." And I told him all about it. It's called Come With Me from Bottega Veneta. I told him, yeah, it's at Bottega Veneta. It smells so amazing, but it's crazy expensive. Because it is. It's well over $400, which to me puts it into that zone of, is it worth it? I mean, that's a lot for perfume. But what I suppose what makes this more special than a lot of other perfumes that are in that price range is the artistry of the presentation. Like I said, this bottle is a sculpture itself. The sales associate said that you can take the nozzle off and you can use this as a vase or just as a decorative object, and I would. Just a really, really beautiful piece, and I was so happy to be living in this scent for the rest of the afternoon. Well, I suppose it was mingling with the Paloma Picasso and the Carine Roitfeld. I should have told the guy at Abercrombie that. We stayed for a really long time at the mall. We were getting exhausted, so we went to the Starbucks. And next to the Starbucks was a store I'd never seen before called Collegium. And I suppose they're known for footwear. Everything is made in Italy. But come on, they had Noguchi lamps, a Noguchi table, a vintage hi-fi system, Snoopy. This store may as well have been called Steve. Thank you so much for hanging out with me again. If there's anything you want me to talk about in particular, you know what my interests are especially. Please let it be known in the comments. I love hearing from you. And I will see you next time.